Are you ready? The Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, Your Call to Action. Join Kornelia as she empowers others to live heaven on earth. Kornelia teaches listeners how to be the authority over yourself, embracing your inner guru. Feel yourself uplifted into limitless expansion, integrating ease and grace in a changing world. This show will cover topics such as unconditional love, your physical body, how to be in extraordinary relationships, create financial and emotional wealth, embracing entrepreneurship in the new earth. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kornelia Stephanie Show. Thank you so much for listening and for tuning in. We have our stories of hope today, and I'm really excited to introduce you to our first guest. Didi Paulini is here, and she believes storytelling is a tool for transformation. She says that for me, telling stories is not just about entertainment. It's about creating empathy, challenging perceptions, and inspiring us to imagine a better world. Didi says that she's a passionate storyteller who brings ideas to life through emotionally powerful and transformative experiences. She's an award-winning producer and director. She's built a career marked by creativity and innovation and inclusivity. With over a decade of experience, Didi has led groundbreaking projects such as the short film Glass Cabinet, winner of the Best Diversity Film Award, and the podcast Twisted Mind, winner of Rio Web Fest. So we have a winner on our hands. There's much more to this lady than we know. Let's bring her on and welcome her to the show. Welcome, Didi Paulini.
Hello, hello. Thank you so much, Kornelia. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm just excited to share with you all a little bit about my story and about the power of storytelling. So come on.
Yeah, I think it's really great because this is I feel like, we heal through our stories. When we share our stories, even when I listen to elderly people speak and they tell the stories about the things that they've overcome. One of the reasons why I have the stories of hope is because I love featuring people that have overcome incredible odds, and yet they have succeeded far beyond what they could ever imagine possible. So storytelling is a healing solve, right? It's how we can connect and see ourselves in the story. And like you said in your bio, imagine a better world.
Absolutely. Yeah. I feel like with the power of storytelling, we can literally imagine anything. Of course, I don't want to go into this whole like dreamy situation, but I just mean that we can learn about different stories. We can inspire, we can teach, we can create some empathy about, like some other people's life. We can talk about a different country, about a different race, about a different perspective. And then in this way, we are, transforming people around us or people that are watching our films or anything like that. So for me, that this power goes beyond just creating content. It kind of like, you can kind of like create, like some perspectives of like how people think, how people interact, and then you learn different things by just watching a movie, watching a show, watching like a series, right? So I feel like it's empowering, and it's like it's very interesting to bring like different perspectives and all of that.
Yeah. How do you think that the storytelling film, like creating documentaries or film, is going to change? Because like already now, I'm very particular with the things I want to put my energy to, or what's going to catch my energy. It has a lot to do with like even when I'm listening to a documentary or when I'm listening to, watching a film or whatever, and even if I don't like the sound effects, it's interesting. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't want to watch the film.
Yeah, no, it's hard. I mean, like honestly, a lot of people, especially when you're making a film, it's so funny because everybody thinks about the picture and the cinematography and like the actors and all of that, and people forget about the sound, right? And it's so funny that that's the first thing you are gonna stop. I mean, you're gonna stop watching a movie if the sound is bad. But like that's the like for independent filmmakers, I honestly, I laugh a lot when I see like, oh, I have everybody in the crew, but I'm missing sound, and I was like, how can you still be missing sound? It's kind of like that's why. Oh no, I can do it. My cousin, whatever, like he can like just hold a boom. And I'm not a sound person, but I know how important it is. I'm not, and it's so funny because I understand you. Like when some effects or some visuals are not talking to you in terms of like in general talking to the picture itself, it kind of like draws like it draws us away from that, and then we
Yeah.
kind of lose interest.
Yeah.
So everything needs to be in this whole like construction, right? So if we're talking about a fiction, a comedy, or a drama, um, we have a different way of dealing with, the story or dealing with the images, and also like one thing that I say is that um, if you make a film that everybody likes it, you didn't do a good job because it's something that people didn't care much. It's not, it's the same that, oh, I like blue and you like yellow. That's the thing. People are not gonna like the same thing, and that's the difference. It's gonna touch you in some way, it's gonna make you think, it's gonna make you like if it makes you question or talk a little bit about it. I feel like for me that's the biggest thing, if it makes you like oh, okay, that was fun and entertaining. Great. I love those, and I want to create like big stories that are just entertaining, but I always want to have like a tiny message that, like makes us think that and that's when I say like when people are like pitching stories and like people have different opinions, but I've learned that oh, this is a story that it's for youngs and adults and like from like a 10 to 50, and I'm like I am a 30-year-old that love watching some TV shows that, I watched when I was like 15 just for the sake of nostalgia. But it was not meant to be for me, it was meant to be for that niche in specific. And then when people say that to me, and I'm like, you did not do your research, because it's not, something cannot be for everybody, like, so you gotta find your people and the way you want to communicate with them. And then that way you can actually achieve, some inspiration because you did some research on the way you want to talk or who you want to talk to. So I feel like that's the power and that's the transformation behind film. It's a whole thing behind the story that there's a lot.
Yeah. So how do you see the, film industry? How do you see the independent films and how do you see all of that changing in the future? Because the whole system, like Hollywood and all of those ways that we used to idolize
Yeah.
our actors before all that is changing. It has for me for a long time. I haven't participated in putting actors on pedestals and so yeah. And even, singers. And it's interesting because now I want to align with, again, where am I going to put my energy? And
Mhm.
this going, whoever these actors are, or whatever this is about, is this going to align with,
Absolutely, yeah.
value?
So uh I mean there's an evolution of like technology, so we are always changing. I mean, we had a movie theater like here and there, we have like a small picture, and then we just became with the IMAX, big movie theaters, a lot of shows, and then streaming came on, and then we have like non-stop content, right? And now we
Yeah.
have vertical content on social media, and a lot of people are doing like web series or mini reels or things like that that are content, even if they're fictionalized, not just like real or talking about my life. It can be like a fiction, but in times of like vertical, which is nice because I've done those. Like if you want to like achieve like a different niche, okay, let's go with that, you know? And so I feel like things are changing, and but also always like not changing for, better or worse. It's just changing, and we have
Yeah.
to adapt with that. Like
Yeah.
same way we had to adapt with a black and white picture and a color, or there was no sound and then there's sound, right? And then
Yeah.
you have to write a different type of script. Or special effects. We went from like um silly, if you look back, some silly special effects until like you can create a whole world with like I could be sitting in a chair just by me being in my living room, right? Be sitting in like a galactic chair and like on a Mars just by being in my living room. So I feel like we are taking like different routes and trying to find different formats that engage people. And if
Hmm.
it engages some like sort of like a niche or some quantity of like people, we'll go with it for a little while, and we're exploring because a lot of things that people don't want to watch like long films anymore, but they still make it. They still make
Yeah.
it. There are some people that still want to, right? Our attention now spans so easily because of like social media, because of like everything we have been going through, that it's hard for a 50-minute show to stick to someone's. It has to be really interesting. It has to be really good. It has to be like, like you said, talk to you in a way that makes you interested. But that's the same way that if a story doesn't catch you in the first 10, 15 minutes, I mean, it's because it won't, So like find something else. But I feel like the whole streaming in a good way gave, gave a lot of like filmmakers the opportunity to work in different projects, but also create all kinds of content because they just need content. So sometimes, again, there might be someone that enjoys it. When you see like a car with a weird color, right? And you like, someone had to make that, someone had to create that, someone had to make that, and someone had to like, enough to actually buy that. So we were talking like maybe 3 out of 100. But anyway, maybe that's not for me. I'll find something else that is for me. So, so I feel like that the good thing about having a lot of content is just being able to choose more what you like, what you want to watch.
Yeah. So what is your plan like next going forward, with everything that you're doing? Like what are you working on now currently that you're excited about?
Oh yeah, so I have my documentary, my feature documentary Transcendence is going through festival route right now. We got super excited when we got selected for out on film. Um, I have two short films that I produced with my business associate in Brazil. She's too animated. It was our first time producing animated shorts, and they're super, super sweet. We're going to through the festival route as well. Short documentary, and then I'll be producing next week another documentary that it talks a little bit about the civil rights and since this year is the 60th anniversary, so we're gonna combine music with some very nice interviews, some speakers that will talk to us. So this is in terms of like, trying to empower, try to bring some like interesting message. And I also have the feature Alpha Rising that talks a little bit about we filmed last year and it's in post-production right now. It talks about an organization that Atlanta had in 1972. It was the Atlanta Lesbian Feminist Alliance. It was just amazing to talk to, 70, 80-year-old lesbians that were part of that in Atlanta in the 70s. So we interviewed them, and now we're going through into post-production. And I can't wait to see and kind of like, have everybody together and kind of like, hey, you guys are on the big screen. Because it's amazing when people share their stories with you. It's like when you do a documentary, and I love fictional and documentaries as well, but when you do a documentary, you have something in mind based on a conversation you had with that person. but they're not actors and actresses. They're not going to memorize their story, right? It's if we talk again next week, we're going to have a different conversation because it's a moving thing, right? It's not memorized. And then it always surprises me in a good way, because it's so amazing to hear that again, and to kind of like be able to be part of it, even though sometimes I tell a lot of people I'm not the activist type in terms of like going and being on a, like with the signs and all of that, because that's not me. And I'm on a work visa. Let's not try for now. I don't want
Yeah.
to change it. But that's my way of kind of like sharing their stories, like you said, with the grandparents. And like it's always nice to hear the stories from the grandparents, or if they can pass it along. I feel like I want to keep their memories, recorded so they can pass it along as well to their family and friends and people that are interested in listening.
Yeah, it's so great. I'm really excited what you're creating, what you're putting out there. I want to let the audience know how they can follow you on social
Yeah.
media and even some of your previous works where they can look it up or whatever so that they can have some insight into what you're doing.
Yeah, you can all check me out at my website. It's ddproductions.com. DD is DIDI productions.com. And my Instagram is ddproductions underscore. Super easy to find. Please follow, comment, watch my things. I'm just excited to share.
Yes. So you mentioned you were a 30 something, is that right?
Huh? Yes, I am 32.
32. Well, you're just beginning. You're just beginning, and it seems like a wonderful, exciting path ahead for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah. We're trying something different. I did not start in film. I did start in when I was like, like about 8 to 10 years ago. And I had like a different career, different undergrad, but then I was like, I don't want to do this. I want to go into film. And then I just jumped in. So I feel like it's always like challenging, but exciting at the same time. So
Yeah. Well, much success. I can't wait to look at your website and look at what you're doing. And then maybe, when you release your next documentary, you can let us know about it. Maybe come back on and tell
yes,
us about
I
it.
would love
That would
that. Thank
be
you so
great.
much.
That would be great. Thank you so much for coming on. We're going to take a break on the Cornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for listening and tuning into the Cornelia Stephanie Show. Our next guest today is Mikki Shepard. She has an incredible story to share with us. Uh, Her bio starts out by saying, "In a heartbeat, the miracle of a family that was meant to be is a delightful, true, and story spanning several generations of families born out of love. It shares a good news adoption story about the greatest gift of love a parent can give their child, the most awesome gift, and another parent can receive." This book is available on Amazon and wherever books are sold. Mikki's diverse career spans multiple industries, successful entrepreneurship, and a strong background in speaking and real estate. She's a published writer and seminar speaker for organizations such as the National Association of Realtors and Business Breakthroughs International, Chet Holmes and Anthony Robbins Company. Her latest endeavor is hosting Adoption as a Choice on the Voice America Empowerment Channel. Testimonial on In a Heartbeat is the perfect recipe for achieving goals in life with a dash of humor, inspiration, and tenacity, simmering with positive thinking and the law of attraction. Tony Robbins. Welcome to the show today.
So much. Glad to be here.
Yes, that's wonderful. Very impressive background you have. Very impressive. I mean, just, when you mention the name of Tony Robbins, that is a name that we can recognize. So that in itself,
Right.
the fact that you got a testimonial from him, that also speaks volumes. So Good for you. But you have your own incredible miracle story to share.
I do.
And
I do.
take us back to when it all began.
It really begins when I started writing the book about it. Realized that it had been like 4 generations of our family that we were constantly having new family members without the benefit of adoption. It just sort of happened. And when you mentioned my brother Chet Holmes and Tony Robbins, Chet was one of those people that he wasn't born into our family, but he was definitely my brother. He just started, he came home with my brother one day, and next thing you know, he was still around 40 years later. So, we had foster kids and things like that growing up too. But, and I have an aunt that was adopted. And I adopted my dad. My mom and dad got married when I was 12. And I really, really didn't like him, as a 12-year-old isn't going to do. But he was determined to win me over, and did. And in fact, I'll tell you, it was a gentler time back then because I'm from New York. And when he won me over, I wrote to the Board of Education in New York and said I wanted to change my last name as a Father's Day gift for my new father. And they just did it willy-nilly. They just
Really?
changed my name, and you can't do that today. But anyway, it was very interesting. So fast forward, I went in the Air Force. When I was in the Air Force, my roommate blamed every problem in her life on the fact that her mother had remarried. And here I am thinking that every good thing that was happening in my life was because my mother had remarried. But it was just such a different experience. So that went on for a while. Anyway, I lived in Colorado Springs. My husband and I, he was my broker in real estate, and then we became partners. And then we decided we really wanted to have a baby, and it wasn't happening, and it wasn't happening. And I was very, very involved in the National Association of Realtors. And this one particular year, we had meetings in San Antonio. And a friend of mine who lived there said, "Why don't we don't have any meetings for a couple hours? Why don't you come with me and see on the trolley car and see how the town has changed since you lived here?" I said, "Okay." So we did. Okay, fast forward, we get off the trolley car and she says, "Mikki, have you and Tom thought about adopting?" And I said, "What brought that on?" And she said, "Your head is like olive oil. Every baby we've passed on this tour." And I said, "Okay, so I want a baby. I mean, I really do." And we thought this year, because of my commitments with real estate, would wait till next year to apply. So that was a conversation. 2 years later, I had totally forgotten about it. I was at another meeting. My husband called and he said, "Who's Carol Thompson?" And I said, "My friend in San Antonio." And he said, "Well, she has a friend who has a friend, and they just called here. And the last friend is pregnant and wants to know if we want her baby." I'm going, huh? That was April 5th, 1990. And like I told you before came on the air, my story to everybody is that our son was in our hearts and in our home before we ever applied for adoption, because it happened so fast. We were going to fly her to Colorado Springs. Colorado at the time had the best adoption laws in the country. She unfortunately lived in Minnesota, and they had the worst adoption laws in the country. But she went into labor prematurely, and I was in Washington, D.C. at other meetings, and I got this call, and I said, "Okay, just let her know I'm on my way." We promised her that one of us would be in the delivery room. And so I got there, and it was very, very interesting. We had been talking on the phone every day. I mean, because only 19 days had gone by, and then when I got there, the lady at the reception desk said, "Are you the one calling me from airports all day?" And I said, "Yeah, well, I'm having a baby and I'm trying to get here on time." And she said, "Just relax. Baby hasn't been born. You're okay." And told me not to go outside the door again by myself, that they would arrange transportation. I had no idea I was in a very dangerous area of town. My mind was on the baby. So I went up to meet her, and she said, "It's okay. Labor stopped." And they told me they wanted me to go home. And I told them if I went home, the mother wouldn't know where the baby was. And I said, "We're confusing the heck out of people here. They don't know what we're talking about." And so she was telling me, go check in the hotel, let Tom know you're safe, and come back. And I did. And when I got back, she right away went into labor. And we had promised to take Lamaze classes. Well, I did. but she didn't. And so when that crucial time came, she said, I know I promised, but I need drugs. And this doctor walks in, and I said, okay, she needs something, for at least to lighten things up. And he looks at her and he says, women do this all the time. Just work it out. And
Wow.
I jumped. I'm not that tall, but I jumped up and looked at him and said, "You out of the room." And we went out, and he said, "Who the hell are you?" Which I wouldn't normally say that, but I said, "I'm about to be a mother, and how many babies have you had?" And I said, "You're not allowed in the room anymore. Just your duties have been dismissed." And I went up to the nurse at the desk. I said that I know there was a woman doctor that when they rotate doctors. And I said, and I know Sharon really liked her. She was very supportive. Can you call her? And she
Mm.
did. And turns out the woman lived like 5 minutes away. And she got there so fast and she was so grateful to be called because she and the hospital staff, other than the doctor, were very excited about this. This was a hospital for prisoners and welfare recipients. 22 babies were born that night. Two of them were healthy. One was my son, thank God. But the others were hooked on heroin or other things. And so we had
Mm.
we had contacted our attorney, obviously, and they found out that Minnesota won't let her designate who the parents will be. And she told them, well, that was the whole reason I'm doing this. And they said, well, no, we'll put the baby in a foster home for 6 weeks. And she said, no, you don't understand what I'm trying to do. I want him to have his family from minute one. And she said, no, not in this state. She said, fine, I'm keeping him. And then called me and said, fix it. and I said, okay, we'll fix it. So our attorney went to work very quickly. And and when I'll tell you one little part and then I'll tell you what the attorney said because I think it's funny. And again, like I told you earlier, the whole reason for the story is I want people to know that good news adoptions happen and you don't have hiccups in any family, but it doesn't mean don't do it because my God, is it worthwhile? Changes everything. Anyway, when our son was born, he was my husband has never believed me that he was so pink and blue eyes and blonde hair. He did babies don't usually look like that when they're born. Well, he does. And they wrapped him up and they brought him over to us. And the doctor said, who do I give him to? And I gotta tell you, Cornelia, my heart sank because I thought if she's gonna break my heart, do it now. I just,
Yeah.
And so I said, let her have him. And so they gave the baby to Sharon. That was her name. And she said, hi, JT. Welcome to the world. I want you to meet your mom.
Oh,
And that was the beginning of tears for a long time. So it was so precious. And the hospital was into it. They were so excited. Something good was happening in their hospital. Okay, so the attorney found out that in Minnesota, there's a law that nobody knows about. We do now. And it said that a parent can ask someone to babysit their child for up to 30 days. And he said, but it doesn't say where. Because up till that moment, everybody was saying, no, you need to come home and do the home study. And my husband was telling him, you haven't heard her voice. She's not leaving that baby. And so he said, okay, I'm going to tell you a story. Don't talk. I said, okay. He said, if you call me as your attorney and tell me you are going to rob a liquor store, that's I have to, as an officer of the court, turn you in. He says, but if you called and told me you robbed a liquor store, that's privileged information between me and my client. And he said, get the picture? I said, I got it. So we essentially robbed a liquor store. But I tell you other things. The reason it was so fun, it was that I stayed in this motel and we took the baby out of the hospital. She carried him just in case the social service person was watching. We went back to the hotel to write a letter that Mickey and Tom would be babysitting my child at their choice of location. And I called down to the desk and I said, I need a cab to drop her off and I have to go to the airport. And he said, there's no cabs available in Minneapolis today. I said, no. There must be one. He said, no, we've arranged for a limo. I said, okay, I was at a realtor convention for 7 days. I'm running out of money here, so I can't do a limo today. He said, no, that they don't take money. I said, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, but thank you. And they had arranged for it. They wanted to be part of the story because they too always had the people there who were visiting criminals and and people in a lot of trouble, and they were not used to something wonderful happening. And so we did, and we dropped her off, and I'm still crying. And the limo driver, we dropped her off at her house. I know she had never been in a limo before, so that was really special for her. And before she got out, she said, you need to stop crying. When you get to the airport, they're going to think you're doing something wrong. I said, I don't know how I'm supposed to say thank you. I just can't get over what you've just agreed to do, and we'll love him and cherish him forever. And she said, just stop crying. I know that. I already know all that. This was not a kid. She was a 33-year-old woman. She had a 4-year-old daughter who had MS. I mean, and she lived in a very abusive situation. He was not the father of our child. So we drive away, and the limo driver said, she's right, you got to stop. I said, quite frankly, I think when I get to the airport, they're going to be thinking I'm just carrying a blanket. I mean, because he was all wrapped up in this blanket. But I did. I did. It was exciting. So we found out a lot. As we were telling our friends and about what was happening, because it happened so fast, we discovered people we had known for years that had been adopted or had adopted and never told anybody. And now they felt like they said, the way you're sharing this, I said, I don't think it's something to be ashamed of. I think it's the most wonderful thing in the world. I'll talk to anybody about it. And so it was amazing. We started hearing from people that we didn't know had those kinds of stories. And then one of the things I really always try to get across, if I have even 2 minutes to talk about this, is one of the myths involved here is that there's a waiting period from the time you file the adoption till it's final. And most people think that waiting period is for the birth parents to change their mind. It's not. It's for the adoptive parents to change their mind.
Wow.
There is a 14-day, and it depends on the state. They're all different. There was a 14-day period where she could change her mind, and of course didn't. But and just us being us and watching too many movies, we had an escape plan anyway. If anything happened, that was where we would go. But we found out, people kind of get excited that we share it. My son shares it, and I know people are surprised. I know we're going to run out of time, but I have to tell you a story. When on my show, My Adoption as a Choice, I always ask people, have you, if it's an adopted child or an adopted adult, did you want to find your birth parents? And we found out about half do, half don't. And I think mostly because people are more open now. I think when it was a mystery, people really wanted to know. And we had made a promise that we would arrange for that meeting if our son wanted it when he turned 18. And we asked him, and you're my mom, he just couldn't think of any reason why we should do that. Nothing bad, just, we had him from the minute he was born.
That was one of my questions was, has your son ever wanted to meet his birth mother? And you answered that question. No, I just want to say, incredible story, incredible story. It says so much about from beginning to end, when you told the story about how your son was in your heart before the adoption, before that even rolled out. I totally see that as real as well. And then just how you fought all the way and how you had to strategize and how to get around the blocks in the system that aren't supportive, for whatever reason. But and then, your feistiness, how you had to fight the doctor and get a different doctor in. So I love you for that, for being able to, really fully, step up the way that you did and receive that bundle of joy. I want to let the audience know how they can look you up, your social media handles, and also where they can find your book.
Okay. Do you want me to tell them?
Yes.
Oh, okay. The easiest way is to go to my website. It's adoptionasachoice, all one word, .com. And that will take you to the podcast. It'll take you to the book. It'll let you contact me. If you have a story, I'd love to hear it. And otherwise, I'm on Facebook and Twitter and everything. But the easiest way to find me is just go to the website, because people put in the wrong Mikki. It's Mikki. And again, it's adoptionasthechoice.com. If you want to hear the latest episode of the podcast, it's adoptionasachoice.live. It's on Spotify, and the stories are really great. We've had industry experts. We've highlighted the Dave Thomas Foundation, Save the Storks, and many others, but most of them are just real people and their real stories.
Yeah, and
And
that's so healing for people. I want to thank you so much, Mikki, for
yeah,
coming on and inspiring our audience today
yeah.
with this incredible story. And I know that your son is 35 now, you said?
He'll be 35 in April.
Yeah, yeah. What a blessing. What a blessing for your family and for many families that are listening to this. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for coming on the
Thank
show.
you, Cornelia. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. We're going to take a break on the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll be right back, everyone. Welcome back, everyone. I am excited to bring Amey Deanne back to the show. Hi, Amey.
Hey, how are you, Cornelia?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. It's Friday.
It's Friday, so we've got our Stories of Hope, our series, and you're on it, and you're bringing us the series of finding your truest you, and also the the subtitle is A Guide to Becoming Your Authentic Self. That's what the series is about. And we've had today's part 3, and today is Unlearning a Negative Mindset. So take us back to just what the titles were on part 2 and part 1.
On part 1, the T in Truest You was trusting yourself, just learning how to trust your gut instincts, learning how to listen to the little voice inside your head. And then the second one, which was the R, was recognizing that everyone's journey is different. So none of us are on the same path. We're all on our own journey. So that's the second part. And today is unlearning negative mindset.
I love this topic today, but first I want to remind the audience a little bit again about who you are and what you've overcome, your bio and what you're doing. You have dedicated your earlier years to being a mom and a wife. And after facing a separation and ultimately a divorce after 29 years of marriage, you realized for the first time that you didn't know who you were. And like many other mothers, you had put your own wants and needs aside to raise your children. And now that your children are adults and no longer dependent on you as they once did, you found yourself on a unique journey of self-discovery. While continuing your career in corporate America, you also sought an outlet for your creativity and you started a side business called Resilient. Initially, it was created as a craft venture. Resilient has evolved into something much more meaningful, contributing a chapter also to the best-selling book, Shine Your Light, was the cherry on the top of your healing journey. And now you focus on connecting with women across multiple platforms, empowering them to discover their truest selves. And you exemplify the idea that you can achieve anything that you set your mind to. But we can't do that, Amey, with a negative mindset.
No, we cannot.
Yeah, so why is that right now number 3, part 3 in this series of Finding Your Truest You?
It's probably one that's at the top of my list. You know, I'm using Truest You as an acronym and coming up with the various different titles of ways that you can be your truest you. But unlearning a negative mindset, first of all, as kids growing up, we tend to listen to our parents. We hang on their every word. So if you're in a situation where your home life is not very good, you're getting some negativity pouring into you as a child. We also, even as we grow, if you are in a school where kids can be cruel, you know, they can be very cruel growing up. If you're being made fun of for one thing, which is something that I dealt with as I grew up, being made fun of because you're too thin, or you're this or you're that, or your hair's too curly, or all these different things. Again, you're feeding into your mind all of these negative things that are coming in. And so once you become an adult, for whatever age that is, for me, getting married so early, it's like, okay, well, I'm now an adult because I'm a mom. I'm a mom, so there's no more growing up. It's here. But you take all that feedback, and to process that is really difficult, first of all, because you believe what people are saying. You want to believe something better. You want to believe something different. But I think it's just human nature that we let that impact us. We let that bring us down. We let that sometimes get us depressed. And so it's really easy to dwell on, oh my gosh, everybody told me I was this, or that I couldn't make it to this, or I wouldn't amount to this, or I would never succeed in this, or whatever the case may be. Different people are told a lot of different things. So if you take all of that and then you go into a marriage that's 29 years like mine was, if you have situations where you argue with your spouse, or you don't agree on things, or they are not nice to you, or whatever the case may be in your situation, you then, once you get out of your situation or your relationship, you have those additional negative tapes playing in your head. So it's not only the things that played in your head as a child, if you were made fun of, or your parents put a lot of negative thoughts into your head, but it's also, now you're at a point where you're needing to heal, you're needing to find yourself, but you also have lots of negative tapes in your head from your relationship. And so that's it's really difficult to compound. I know one of the ways that that really helped me a lot. So I love Hobby Lobby. I buy a lot of inspirational sayings and a lot of posters with things, or pictures that have quotes on the bottom of them, or whatever. And that was huge when I moved to my own apartment for the first time, to just surround my apartment with all of these words of affirmation. You are beautiful, or you are this, or, so you start your day with a much more positive mindset and kind of try to erase those negative tapes.
I love that so much, like surrounding yourself with all the positivity, because that is the truth. You are beautiful. You are amazing. Home is where the heart is. Yes, you can. All of these things, right? Those are all the truth. And so surrounding yourself with that, when you're listening to the negative thoughts or the negative replays in your mind, right, that aren't true, because you came here to achieve greatness. You came here to overcome things, to live your best life. And, when you have to deal with your own negativity, the thoughts that are replaying over and over again, that's why you said that this part, number 3, is really important, is unlearning those negative mindsets. So I love being able to, surround yourself with positivity. What else can people do that support them to flip that?
Surround yourself with positive people. The last thing you want to be is in a group of people who are constantly making fun of others, or who don't lift you up. Oh, this, I do want my friends to be honest with me. If this is not the look I need to be leaving the house in, please tell me. But there's a line there at some point that is the negativity again. And so surround yourself with people that are positive, that lift you up when you are down, that offer support to you, that are fun, that are not, curmudgeon, they are not, always complaining. That's the other thing, is the whole complaining thing. Try and flip the script a little bit whenever you are getting in the mindset of, oh, well, this is terrible. This is so hot out here. This is terrible. Well, but look, we got all this rain. It's okay. Try to flip the script and look at it with a glass half full, not half empty. And so that's the other thing that I really try to do as well on the negative mindset, because it is a learning thing. It is something that you have to repeatedly do. You have to repeatedly tell yourself that you are better. You have to repeatedly hang out with people that are going to build you up. You have to put those words of affirmation around your house. So those are a lot of things that I have done during my healing journey that really helped.
Do you think that the negativity mindset is a lifelong process?
It is.
Which is another reason why working this, finding the best strategies, finding the best tools, finding the best coach, finding the best resources, surrounding yourself is why it's even more important. Because if it's a lifelong process, you may be going through one phase in your life right now where you're going through it, and then you think you're done. And then you want to achieve something greater, like maybe write a book or publish a book or put on a film or start a podcast or do something, and then suddenly the negative mindset starts playing back up again. And
It
so
does.
that's why, unlearning that negative mindset is kind of like a layer by layer, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, kind of like peeling back an onion.
Until you end up in just rewriting everything into the positive, rewriting. So we've given the audience two things that they could do. And would you happen to have a number three?
The
Third
other
thing.
part of that, not only using words of affirmation to surround your house and the decoration like that, hanging out with people that are positive, but also for you reframing that. The third one would be to reframe your negative thought. If something comes to your mind that's negative, reframe that and turn it around to something that's positive. I really, really try to do that every day. In the beginning, it was really, really hard. It was, I'm alone. I'm this, I'm that. I don't look very good. I'm getting older. All these things you start to heap on yourself, and layer by layer, peeling back that onion as I was healing and going through my own healing journey, learning that I do look okay, or I am beautiful. And then the words of affirmation, and then hanging out with positive people. So it's a little bit of everything, but it does take work, and it is a journey.
Yeah. So you've overcome a lot of things, like, after having been in a marriage for 29 years, and then you have the emptiness, the children are now moved out, and you moved into an apartment by yourself, but since then you've purchased a house and you're doing all kinds of things, you're writing another book, you were a part of the bestseller, and now you're doing this. And so what is it that your mission is for, as you're moving forward, and why are you doing this?
I'm doing it because getting to the root of everything, finding your truest self. These are some of the things that we're going through, whether it's trusting yourself and your instincts and all the different things that we're going to continue to go through. But it's important to me because I feel like I found my truest self. It's important to me to help others do that because as we've talked before, you don't want to deal with someone that's fake. You don't want to deal with someone that's not genuine. You want to have genuine relationships. You want to be able to cultivate things with even new people that you meet. And so it's just really, really important to me to try and spread this, to try and share this, to try and create this movement, so to speak, so that there are other people that can pick it up and kind of have a guide to go by and look at it and say, okay, well, this is a good idea. Or also, in the book that I am writing, each chapter I do kind of come up with micro stories of some things that I have been through. So I hope that the reader will be able to pick that up and say, oh, well, that happened to me too. Here's a great way to get out of that.
Yeah. I just love this so much, because I think that finding your truest you, discovering your who you really are at the core, I really think that is the perfect time for this next era, because we're so done with the fakeness, we're so done with the plastics, we're so done with small talk. We want the real deal. And, like real relationships, people that are supportive of you, people that are, wanting to engage, and people that want to grow with you. So I think this movement, what you're doing, is going to have a long lifespan, and you're going to be able to help many, many people. I want to let the audience know how they can find you on your social media and also on your website.
I on Facebook and Instagram am Amey Deanne, AmeyDeanne. And I'm also Resilient TX because I live here in Texas. And my website is my-resilient-journey.com. And it's kind of a little bit of everything. You can find my calendar on there. You can read some of the blog posts that I have put out there. You can buy the other book that I was part of out there. So come check it out.
Yeah. So, well, I look forward to our next part, which is going to be in 2 weeks from now. We get to see you again and listen and look at part 4. Do you know what part 4 is, or do you want us to wait and see what it is? Okay. Sounds good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like that. Well, thank you so much, Amey Deanne, for coming on and for inspiring our audience and all the people that are listening with this amazing series that you're bringing forth. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So everyone, thank you so much for listening and tuning into the Kornelia Stephanie Show. We'll see everyone again next week. Take good care.
You've been listening to the Kornelia Stephanie Show, Wake Up to Love, your call to action. Tune in each week on Transformation Talk Radio. Kornelia's joy is to engage others in practical ways, showing us how to live in the new earth in harmony with our true nature. For more information on Kornelia and her extraordinary work, or to listen to past shows, go to her website at korneliastephanie.com.